Sports. Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, joins us. Craig, Paul, and Smokey. And Sam, thanks for your time. We brought up Max, your great friend of ours as well. I wanted to go ahead and do that off the top because you and I have talked about this as well. That is like your running buddy, and now he's going to be at ESPN.com. And I know that there's been some staff changes, Ari Wasserman and others. I know you guys are thriving, but how much of a difficult couple of weeks has it been?
It is, because these are all people that mean a lot to me and mean a lot to us, certainly. And first off, before I go any further, I got to say, Craig is my hero for saying Skinamax on live air. I did not anticipate that today. So that was terrific. I enjoyed that conversation. But no, look, first of all, I'm thrilled for Max. As you said, Dave, he's one of my best friends in this industry. We worked together for 10 years, 6 at ESPN, about 4 here at The Athletic. He's a big reason I'm at The Athletic. He was one of the very first ones to try to convince me to come over. And Max I've worked with him longer than I've worked with anybody in this industry. In 20 years of sports journalism, I've worked with him longer than I've worked with anybody else. And he's absolutely, unequivocally one of the best out there. If you read his work, you know that. And he's an even better person. And I know you guys know that, spend time with him. I can say this now, and I couldn't say it back then publicly because I was still taking a paycheck from them. But ESPN was incredibly idiotic for letting him go 7 years ago. I know that was a tough time. We had a ton of people lose their jobs in 2017. That was a really tough time to go through those layoffs and lose so many valued members of our team. The fact they let him go was mind-boggling to me. So when you consider how young and talented he was and how much promise he showed, and guess what? The Athletic became the beneficiary of that for the next 7 years. And he killed it, established himself as one of the best national reporters out there. And I'm glad to see they're righting the wrong and bringing him back. And I'm sad he's leaving us, certainly. And I know he struggled with this decision because we're, like I said, we're great friends. There's a lot of investment put in this place in building the Athletic to what it is. And he was in on the ground floor of that. Ari Wasserman was also on the ground floor of that. And these are incredibly difficult decisions for those guys to make that move because of how much you invest in a place like this, especially when you start from where they started. But things change, times change, and I'm happy for those guys. They've got some really great opportunities, and we're going to still continue to be friends as we always have been. Ari's as passionate as they come. He's a great guy, welcomed me with open arms. You know, we've had other people leave in the past, and, you know, times change over time, but we will be fine. I am confident we still have a terrific staff. You know, Bruce Feldman, Chris Vanini, Justin Williams, who I know you guys have had on quite a bit, David Ovens, Stu Mandel, Scott Docterman, Grace Rayner, Jana Bardall, who I know you guys have gotten to know recently as well, Mitch Sherman. The list goes on and on. We still have a really good group here. I don't want people to think just because, you know, a couple of really talented folks left that, hey, things are wrong at the Athletic or things are crumbling. No, things change. People have opportunities. And this is what happens when you build a great team. When you put together a team with as much talent as this group did, people want to get a taste of that. They want to steal a little bit of that magic and hire people away. And that's totally natural. And I think we'll be fine. You know, our managing editor, Jill Fall, posted an opening, and I know we've got tremendous response for that. So we're still trying to get people, get people to come here and work here. And I think we're still going to be great, hugely successful in the future. And I'm confident in the direction we're headed. But I'm definitely happy for Max and Ari and those guys for their upcoming opportunities.
Sam, here we are. Practices are starting. What team in Texas do you think might surprise people this year that was not up to snuff last year?
You know, it's a great question. I'll tell you what, A&M is the one of the teams in the state of Texas. A&M is the one that I look at as well below expectations last year. We've talked about this a lot. There's no reason the roster with that much talent should have had the record it had. And we know a lot about why it happened and the fallout of the Jimbo Fisher era. They've been and we talked about this at SD Media Days, about how quiet they've been and they've just kind of been laying in the weeds. I really do think the roster talent is legit. And I think it's still very good enough to be a dark horse playoff contender. I'm not saying that's what they're going to be, but I think they do still have the talent to do that. I think we'll learn a lot on opening night when they host Notre Dame. If they win that one, then I think, hey, keep an eye on the Aggies moving forward. But they're the one team that I think when I look at, I think the ceiling for them is much higher than what they ended up last year. The other team, and we've discussed this offseason before, I really hesitate, and because we got snake bit by last year, but I am really gung-ho on Texas Tech if they can keep the quarterbacks healthy, because I do think they've done a really good job of recruiting, retaining, developing, and keeping a pretty stable staff. So those are the two teams that I keep an eye on, at least in this state.
Sam, I know it's not going to have an effect on this year, but what do you think about the changes in scholarships that are coming down the pipeline, the 105 limit, so an additional 20 scholarships, but also that what comes with that is a lot of questions about what that looks like, or rosters, hoarding guys from the smaller schools, and what does the portal look like? And there's a lot of questions, but just on the surface and knowing what we do know, what do you think of the expanded scholarship limits?
It's going to be so fascinating to watch unfold, because my first question is, can everybody afford to fund 105 scholarships?
Right.
Certainly the Power 4 conference schools you would think can, but I would even have questions about some of those schools. Certainly the ones who are newer and are still growing their budgets. I think of the 4 new Big 12 schools that came in last year, that they're still trying to get their budgets up to the standard Power 5 level. They're not even full share membership. So I'm curious, can everyone afford to do it? Certainly, what does that mean for the group of 5 schools? And can they afford to do it? Or even can they afford to do partials for people beyond the 85? Then you mentioned the part of hoarding. That is the part that's going to be really, really interesting to me, because I wonder if it opens up a situation where your big dog teams, your power conference teams, who were limited by how many guys they could have because you had the 85 scholarship limit. And in the portal era, some of these better quality high school players have been trickling down to the group of 5 schools. Now because of these extra 25 or 20 scholarships, can a Georgia or even a Kansas, or someone in the middle, Kansas State, someone in the middle of the pack, can they go get some guys that they wouldn't have gotten before, and just, whether it's, with the extra scholarships, as a promise of NIL or whatever, and just keep the G5s from getting those guys. And to me, that becomes a real dangerous thing for the G5s, because the one inefficiency they're exploiting right now is, hey, let's go get the guys that are getting overlooked because the big dogs are getting portal players. Well, if they're getting those guys and then they're still losing guys to the portal, to the big dogs, then what's happening to your G5 schools? So I'm curious to see how that plays out. And again, just from the start of it, like, what kind of financial impact does it have to start adding these scholarships to everybody's budget?
Sam, which of the teams that I think most everybody has a group of 5 to 7, 8 teams that can possibly play for a Big 12 title. And yeah, it gets a little more flimsy at 5 or 7, 8, whatever. But which of the teams at the top of the conference that are usually on everybody else's or in everyone else's group have the opportunity to not reach those expectations, or maybe have an incredibly disappointing season?
That's good. That's a great question. Because I think Utah, K-State, to me, are for sure, I consider them slam dunk contenders. I kind of want to put Oklahoma State in that conversation too, just because of how much they bring back. Then it's that next group the next group of Kansas, Arizona, Iowa State, where I feel like I think they're contenders, but I think it could go either way. I really do. And some of that a lot of that has to do with just luck, health. Something like Kansas. Kansas had, Jalen Daniels had injury issues last year. Something like that could really throw a team off track in that middle group, or that next group, that second tier, so to speak. If something happened to Team Akron Feet at Arizona, then you would think that probably hinders their chances in a big way. Iowa State, obviously, they're a program that wins on the margins. I guess if there's a team in the top 6 that I would say that I feel less confident in, I guess it's Iowa State. And I don't, there's not really a great reason for that because I think bring back so much production. They're one of the top returning production teams in the country, but to use Matt Campbell's terms, they are a program that wins on the margins. They are not a program that's going to dominate teams on a consistent basis. And so when you play games like that, and when you win on the margins and you win close games, then it opens up possibilities for you to lose games that you shouldn't. And so if there was a team in the top 6, I guess that would be the one that I would pinpoint right now.
Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports.
Sam, what vibe do you get at UCF? With KJ Jefferson, with the running backs, they've got Kobe Hudson at wide receiver, Gus Malzahn, really one of the more accomplished coaches in the conference. They look like they're building something there, but is this the year that they really see that?
Yeah, I think they can make a really big jump this year just because they, to me, of the 4 teams that came in last year, their roster looked most ready to go in the Big 12, in my opinion. And they, of course, had some bad luck. You guys saw it firsthand with the Baylor game. That's a game they should have won. Mm-hmm. They were leading quite a bit and gave that up toward the end. But the way they put that roster together, the way Gus is recruited, the type of speed, size that he put together, I remember looking at their D-line last year. I'm like, man, they got good-looking guys on that team. I think they have a chance to make a big jump. I think KJ Jefferson, with that offense that they run, is a really good fit for him. He did pretty well in the veer and shoot Brile system at Arkansas, but I think this will be also a really great fit for him at UCF, and I think the potential there is pretty good. They could absolutely be a dark horse, in my opinion, just based on what they've put together.
Sam, maybe you were already aware of these guys being on, unofficially, I guess, the TCU staff, but TCU does make it official. Dana Holgorsen, now a part of the Frogs, as well as Todd Graham. And we were talking with Steven Johnson and just reading some of the details. Holgorsen will be working with DC Andy Avalos, and then you'll have Todd Graham working with Kendall Briles to give each other those opposite looks. I know that having former head coaches on staff is nothing really new, but what do you think of the couple of additions for Sonny Dykes as they have a pretty big offseason to change?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. I think always good to add more people in the building. And I remember Sonny Dykes saying, he said this many times, I think at media days and other interviews, and certainly told me when we talked about it last year, that when they went to play Georgia in the championship game, he was struck by how big their staff was. And he kind of wondered, why do you have that big a staff? And then after they went through all that and made it to the end and realized how tiring and emotionally draining and demanding it is to play that many games that late into the season, and especially that many high-level games, it kind of hit him. I was like, oh, this is why you have this many people, because it gets really tiring, draining, and stressful at the end of this thing. Adding more brain power to the room and accomplished coaches to the room is always a good thing. I mean, Nick Saban made a pretty good habit of it at Alabama, bringing in former head coaches, bringing accomplished coaches over to his staff to contribute in a variety of ways. I think it's a smart move for anybody. Steve Sarkisian has done it at Texas. We know Dave Aranda has done it with Gary Patterson here at Baylor this offseason. There seems to be a market for that now because of coaches who are out of the game in a way, but still want to be involved in the ball. Because as we know, head coaching is not just football. Head coach is managing a program and managing NIL and managing the transfer portal and all this other stuff. And it allows them to still contribute in what they like. Dana Holgorsen, if this was 20 years ago, he would be like a pig in slop because all he wants to do is call plays. But what football is now is different from what it was then. So him being there's a natural fit because Sonny and Dana work together at Texas Tech. They're both from the Mike Leach air raid tree. Todd and Sonny have a really good relationship. Actually, when I went over there in the spring, I saw Todd they hadn't hired him on full time yet, but he was visiting. And I'd asked Todd, I was like, "What are you doing up here?" He's like, Sonny just asked me to come watch practice every now and then and tell him what I think. And so why not bring that guy on and just, he's seen a lot and done a lot. And I think you guys mentioned it yesterday. Todd's got a really good eye for coaching talent, mm-hmm. So why not bring all that expertise in and help make your program better? I think there's definitely a clear message when you talk to Sonny that last year everything wasn't necessarily so symbiotic on that coaching staff last year. Certainly not in the locker room either. And the results played out on the field. They were 5-7. So anything you can do to kind of get some of that fixed, I think, is a positive thing. And having good, proven, critical eyes to evaluate what you and you are doing, I think, is always going to make you better.
Sam, thank you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you getting into so much college football. I think we're all ready just for games to be played, so we have that to talk about rather than some of the peripheral, although important things that are going on. Good luck, man. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Hope to have you on more and more.
Sounds good. 3 weeks away, boys.
Yes,
We're almost there.
Absolutely. Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports.